Hey, it's our weekly streaming show. Here's a sneak peek at our top streamer of the week. Go get you some Derek Carr, rostered in just 39% of Yahoo leagues. He'll face the Buccaneers in Week 17, ranked 29th in AFPA to opposing quarterbacks, and just made C.J. Beathard look like C.J. Stroud in limited action last week. Carr has been a QB1 in each of the past 2 weeks, and with Chris Olave healthy and productive, expect another busy day for the New Orleans passing game. Now let's get to the show. Welcome, everyone, to the most accurate podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Niles. With me is my fantastic co-host, the great Jen Akins. Jen, how's it going, buddy?
I'm good. First of all, I'd like to comment. I like the fact that the frame we're far away today.
I'm not far away today. I like it.
Not hating that at all. I'm good. It's strange. I don't feel like we're in week 17. Like I feel like we're still in week 16.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like there was so much football over the last 3 days that I feel like we're still there. And I turning the page is a weird thing today. I feel like it shouldn't be. But I'm good. I also have to say I just got a massage like an hour ago. So
oh, nice.
Yeah, which is huge. I haven't had one in probably over a year. So yeah, I'm a little, but but I am good. Ready to do this week 17. Hopefully, lots of our listeners made it to the title game. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't believe it's the last episode of the season, and all the writing stuff is winding down. A week from now, I'm not going to know what to do with myself, Jen. That's how it goes. Hopefully, I'll just be celebrating championships. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Donald, sorry you lost last week. Samson, great to see you, even if you've got no teams left. Darian Patterson, we'll get to a question here in a little bit. Just as a reminder, this is our weekly streaming show. So, we're going to talk about the quarterbacks, tight ends, kickers, and defenses to stream in championship week. As a reminder, streaming means rostered in less than 40% of Yahoo leagues. So if we don't bring up somebody that you like, they're probably rostered in too many leagues. So Darian Patterson, KJ Osborne, Demarcus Robinson, or Jerry Jeudy this week. That's a tough one for me. That's a whole bunch of players there. It really depends on Jordan Addison's health for me. If Addison is out, then I think Osborne's kind of a slam dunk in that matchup, but that's probably where I'm going either way. I like Jeudy enough, but Judy's not 100%, right, Jen?
Well, Cortland Sutton is in concussion protocol.
He's hurt.
Jeudy, I'm not sure if he's 100%. He hasn't really been all there this season anyway, but health-wise, I'm not 100% sure about him. But if Sutton is out, he's not an awful option there either. But I would probably say I lean Osborne, like you said, if no Addison. Demarcus Robinson, I kind of feel like, I don't know. I mean, I know he's had a nice little uptick, but it's hard for me to get on board with that, especially in the title game.
Yeah, that's kind of where I feel like I'd have a hard time going into the title speak like Demarcus Robinson is my guy, but I understand.
I feel like there may be a better option on the waiver wire. I don't know. But like I said, I don't hate Jeudy if Sutton's out, and I certainly don't hate Osborne if Addison. Because, I mean, Hawkinson's out too, so.
Yeah, very true. Okay, let's go right into quarterbacks, if that's okay.
Let's do it.
I'm going to preface this by saying Derek Carr is the best option. He's really, really the best option. So if you can't get Derek Carr, I'm sorry, and hopefully something will work out. Because the problem is the other streaming options, you're looking at like Gardner Minshew, Joe Flacco, those other guys have horrible matchups. Like Minshew faces the Raiders, who've been really good defensively the past few weeks. So, I mean, season long, they're like 16th in AFPA to opposing quarterbacks. But over the past like 3 weeks, they're just shutting teams down. Like that's what they've been doing. They just shut down Patrick Mahomes. That made him really struggle in that loss. So Gardner Minshew, it's hard to recommend. Flacco goes up against the Jets, who are the best pass defense in football right now. So it's hard to really recommend those guys. You could, I guess, squint at Bryce Young at Jacksonville because that's a good matchup. But are we trusting Bryce Young just because he had one good game against the Packers? I don't do that. So here's where I'm going. If you can't get Carr, try to get the Tennessee guy. That might be Ryan Tannehill. It might be Will Levis, but they're up against Houston. Houston is 30th in AFPA to opposing quarterbacks. They really struggle defensively. They're one of the most vulnerable pass defenses in football. They're limping to the finish line. Tennessee's got some weapons to work with. They got Hopkins. Obviously, Derrick Henry is not really a pass receiving option, but Tyjae Spears has been pretty good. They're using Chig, even if it's Derrick Henry throwing the ball and using him. Levis can put up numbers, and so can Tannehill. So if you can hedge and figure out a way to get both of them on your roster or something along those lines, if you can't get Derek Carr, I think your best bet is a Tennessee quarterback. After that, watch if Nick Mullens still starts, right? We saw the whole Nick Mullens experience last week. We saw multiple touchdowns, lots of yards, multiple interceptions. That's the way he goes. I've been saying for a couple weeks, he's a gunslinger. That's who he is. Faces Green Bay. Green Bay gave up QB1 performances to Bryce Young and Baker Mayfield over the past 2 weeks, and the QB16 performance to Tommy DeVito in week 14. So, like, Green Bay is a very vulnerable pass defense. So if Nick Mullens starts, I'm okay with that. But know that you're looking at some variance there. Jaron Hall may start. The Vikings may pull Mullens after the first 2 picks, which could happen in the first half. So full Nick Mullens experience. That's where it goes. I like him if he starts. So that's where it goes. After that, if you're desperate and the Giants, if they announce Tyrod Taylor as the starter against the Rams, I like Tyrod Taylor. Obviously, the Giants' offense is really difficult to roll for, but you're hoping Tyrod Taylor does enough. Yesterday against Philly, he showed some signs of life. Had a big play to Darius Slayton, so that's kind of where I would go there. I'm not really too interested in Mason Rudolph against Seattle. I know I'm throwing all kinds of names, but it's a tough week. I'm not too interested in Mason Rudolph against Seattle. I think that's a tough one to assume Rudolph is going to bounce or come off that good win against Cincinnati and come into Seattle do well. So I'm a little worried about Mason Rudolph. I'm not excited about him, and I'm never excited about Taylor Heineke. I'm worried about Washington against San Francisco, so I'm not going after Jacoby Brissett, even if he starts. Aiden O'Connell at Indy's too fluctuating. So Carr, if you can't do Carr, Tennessee quarterback. If you can't do that, maybe Mullens or Tyrod Taylor, and that's it. That's where I am at quarterback. Jen, did I run around too much before I finished at a final point, or did that all make sense?
No, it totally made sense. I mean, I wish we could get the Flacco revenge game going, but it's a tough matchup.
It's tough. That's a tough secondary to assume he's going to do. That could be an ugly, low-scoring game.
I agree with you there. It's tough. I hope most of you out there have a quarterback by now that you don't have to stream. Like you said, Carr is the best option, but unfortunately, we've all lost plenty of quarterbacks over the last several weeks, so there might be people out there scrambling. And listen, you never know. I mean, Flacco last week, granted, I grabbed him at the last minute and he was on a bench of mine, but I think he put up like 39 points on my bench. So it can happen. League winners out of nowhere, but it is rough, like you said. You went through pretty much the entire gamut of who's available, and it's all pretty ugly.
Yeah, pretty rough. All right, Kyrus doesn't want to go with Trevor Lawrence. Wants to know Stafford, Mayfield, Goff, Flacco, or Carr. That's kind of tough. It's hard I would just probably go with Goff. I don't love the matchup that he's got against Dallas, but Dallas has been pretty vulnerable lately. That game could be high scoring, so that's probably where I go. You could talk me into Carr or Stafford there. Mayfield's okay. I don't know. Tampa Bay, I struggle a little bit against New Orleans. I feel like Baker may struggle a little bit against that New Orleans secondary, but we'll see. Goff is where I go there. Jen, do you like one of the other guys better?
I don't hate Baker actually against New Orleans. Well, I mean, we're in a position that a lot of these guys are fighting for the playoffs. So I feel like between Stafford, Mayfield, I don't hate them. I think Goff is probably the safest choice of those. But you could talk me into Mayfield or Stafford there.
Okay, excellent. Jay Money wants to know T. Higgins, Amari Cooper, Nico Collins, David Montgomery. They need a wide receiver 2 and a flex. So in a half PPR format, it's hard to sit Amari Cooper after last week, but he also faces the Jets. So that's a much harder conversation that I think I'm ready for in that situation. Hard to trust Nico Collins, but I like with the quarterback situation, but I like the matchup. T. Higgins against Kansas City feels like the right way to go there since Jamar Chase is still hobbled. And then David Montgomery gets enough touches and finds the end zone, so he's probably a safer flex option. I might go Higgins and Collins, though. That's where I might land just for upside. What do you think, Jen?
I will say this. Dallas is kind of weak against the run, so I don't hate Montgomery there. The problem is, as we know, you've got Gibbs to contend with, and so Montgomery is probably going to get some goal line stuff.
And he's just not catching passes, unfortunately.
No. What did you say, Higgins and Collins?
That's kind of where I land.
Yeah.
You could talk me another direction, but I'd probably land on Higgins and Collins.
I like that. I do like Montgomery, though, but I wish you had Gibbs. He's such a beast.
He's been so good. It's been good to see him producing as the season goes on. Influxcative 2K. Sorry if I'm messing that up. Start Tua or stream Mullens, Carr, Kyler Murray, or Flacco. I would probably just go with Tua, but you could talk me into Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's got a better matchup and is going to get more rushing production. So you could talk me into that, but I'd probably just stick with Tua, even though he faces Baltimore. The last time Tua faced Baltimore, it was just an insane display of offense. So it's hard.
I know, but after watching last night,
true. But Tua's probably a better quarterback than Brock Purdy.
Oh, so. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I would probably stick with Tua. I know that it's so hard when we get to the finals and people try to get cute, and sometimes you just have to go with the person that got you there, or dance with the person that got you there, whatever that expression is. But I wouldn't go Mullens or Carr. Yeah, I'd probably stick with Tua.
Excellent. Makes sense. Jelly of the month. 2 for 2 going to the finals. Congratulations, Jelly of the month. Nice. I hope you win. Rank these defenses: Buffalo, Denver, and the Jets. The Jets are great against Cleveland. I have no problem with that, but I'd probably side with Buffalo. Buffalo faces New England at home. I just think that's a better option. The Buffalo defense has been playing well pretty lately, and New England's offense struggles. Bailey Zappi's been better, but they still struggle. So I side with Buffalo. Do you want to make a Jets or Denver argument, Jen?
No, I'd go Bills with those three.
Excellent. Patty, pick 2, Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Zeke Elliott, James Conner, Chuba Hubbard. That's an assortment of running backs out there for you. They're all like decent enough options. I think that the Raiders have been good defensively, but they're better against the pass. So I'd probably go with Jonathan Taylor. And then Connor's been getting touches and finding the end zone. I might end up on Connor there, but that's a tough one, Jen. Do you have strong opinions?
I'd probably lean the first 2, Taylor and Jones, but
sure.
Like you said, Connor, he's had 2 pretty good weeks in a row.
In blowout losses.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I know. Yeah, I lean Taylor and Jones, but it's early in the week, so I may change my mind as we go on. But yeah, I'd go the first 2.
Yeah. Randall Ducati wants to know Nick Mullens or Geno Smith as your QB2. Cue the Clint Eastwood. Do you feel lucky? Because that's the thing with Mullens, right? I think Mullens is going to be fine if he starts. So make sure you've got a backup plan. Geno Smith against Pittsburgh. I don't love that. So I actually would gamble on Mullens if he's starting. If he's not starting, though, you need a backup plan in place. So that's where I go. Are you more bullish on Geno against Pittsburgh than I am, Jen?
No. But at the same time, the Mullens situation is scary because they've come out today and said that it could be one of 3 people. Like Dobbs may be up there again. So you'd have, granted, the good news is we're in the last game of the season. I would assume. If you're not, then whatever. But you can kind of get rid of all the riffraff, and you can have 3 quarterbacks. You can have 4 quarterbacks, you know, if that's where you need to go. Get rid of all the handcuffs, all the stuff. Because if you're not starting them, you don't need them ever again. So if you need to grab Mullens and Hall and Dobbs to make it happen, you might have to do that. I don't hate Geno, but like you said, against Pittsburgh, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, excellent. Patty needs Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, or Flacco. I like Goff as a safe option, but Wilson plays the Chargers, so Wilson for me.
Yeah.
Begrudgingly.
No, Goff at Dallas, it's like in theory that's kind of scary, but Dallas has been a little more porous than normal. Like you said, Wilson's the Chargers. What was the third option? Oh, Flacco. Yeah, that's a
Flacco
tough
against the Jets. Yeah.
tough matchup. I would maybe go Wilson actually.
Yeah. Wilson's where I go. It's just hard not to start someone against the Chargers. They just really, really struggle defensively, and they're really limping toward the end of the season. Kells 22 needs 2 quarterbacks out of Carr, Goff, Mullens, and Flacco. To me, that's easily Carr and Goff.
Yeah.
The safer options there, good matchups for Carr. I like that. Easton Grosser, Jags or the Jets defensively. Either way, really, I like both of them. The Jags are up against Carolina, but they're also really struggling defensively. So over the second half of the season, the Jets are just locked down. So I'd go with the Jets, and I think that they'll probably stifle Flacco's resurgence enough to be a good score. Do you want to make an argument for the Jags, Jack?
I don't. I go Jets here.
Okay. Kells 22, also Godwin, Jalen Warren, or Romeo Dobbs. Pick one for your flex. That's a tough one. Warren's kind of been phased out a little bit, so probably not Warren. I'd probably go with one of the receivers.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your scoring format, but like he's still getting double digits. It's not great. Like he's like in the 10 to 12 range, in PPR. I mean, it's not fantastic. Like you said, I don't know if he's being phased out. I think it's just
you're right. That was too strong of a word.
I think they're just kind of it's a split, and I think that they're, Najee seems to be getting the goal line stuff, and Dobbs I think is interesting, but we still have a lot of injury to deal with there. Like Jaden Reed, ? Christian Watson, ? Dontavian Wicks, ? Like if all those guys don't play, then fire up Dobbs. But if those guys come back, I don't know. Then it's kind of a carousel there on who's going to get the and Godwin is just, he's very hit or miss this season. Like it's the Evans show. I mean, Evans has been great, which is fantastic because he had such a low ADP and no one believed in him. And once again, he always prevails.
I will say New Orleans is top heavy at corner, so the wide receiver 2 can sometimes feast against New Orleans. That tends to be kind of a thing, but not significant enough to really go hard that way. I would probably side with Godwin unless all the Packers are out, like Jen said. That's probably where I would go, but that's a tough one, Kels. That's definitely tough. AJ, pick 3, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, David Montgomery, Ty Chandler, 100-yard bonus and half-point PPR. Those are all good options. I like all those guys. Green Bay's really struggled defensively, so it makes me want to fit Chandler into the lineup, but I don't know if I can do it. Jen, what do you think?
The thing with Chandler, I mean, I hope what we saw last week is that he has taken over the job, but Madison is back, and it scares me that they're all of a sudden going to decide to use him. I mean, he had 2 carries for -1 yards last week, so he really isn't and shouldn't be a threat. But it's just that's a little scary to me that they may all of a sudden decide to use him. Bijan Robinson, once again, it's the Arthur Smith factor, right? Like we'd like to think that he's going to get the volume and he's going to give you that 100-yard bonus. That's a really tough one. I'll pick 3.
Yeah, so you just sit one.
I would probably sit Chandler. Yeah. But you could talk me into sitting Montgomery either. I think JT and Bijan, you start them, and then it's between the other 2 there.
Yeah, I agree. Inflictive 2K, start 3, Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, Saquon Barkley, Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry, James Conner.
You did a much better job with that name this time, by the way.
I'm working on it. I'm going to keep.
You crushed the name this time around.
Thank you, Jen. Lots of running backs there to pick from. I think that it's really hard to sit Taylor. So I would definitely go with Taylor. Henry against Houston is awfully hard to ignore. But all those guys are good players. So it's all those guys, I'm going to be sad to sit any one of them. I think Swift against Arizona is kind of a must start too. So,
God, I mean, Saquon is kind of, I don't know if trusting that Giants offense is a little bit scary there. So I mean, it's tough to physically click the button and sit Saquon.
And he does get 21 touches a game. So it's,
I mean,
Mixon, it gives him that high floor.
I mean, you could probably sit Mixon maybe because
against the Chiefs,
you've got Chase. Yeah, you got Chase Brown coming up a little more these days. That is
give
tough.
me Taylor Swift and Saquon, and I just cry watching Henry and Connor on the bench. Like that's just what happens. I think
Uh-huh.
that's where I end up. That's tough, man. That's tough. Too bad the trade deadline's passed because I
I
feel like that's
know.
a
I was
great
like,
opportunity.
yes, pawn off some of those guys. I mean, I'm sure that Zeke was someone that I don't know if you acquired him later or you just kind of held on to him, but Ramondre may be back, but even if he is, he's kind of risky too. So that's a tough one.
Yeah. Kel's 22. Do we trust Calvin Ridley this week? No, not at all. Carolina's really good defensively. They have a great secondary, and Calvin Ridley's wildly inconsistent. So no, I don't trust Calvin Ridley.
No, not unless he's your only option, but
Yeah.
I would think you might be able to find somebody else.
Yep. Carolina does a pretty good job against wide receiver ones, too. That's specifically, they've done really well with that, especially over the second half of the season. Eric Gorky, pick 2, Eckler, Cup, Javonte Williams in a non-PPR. Non-PPR changes things a little bit, but I think with the matchups in play and everything considered, I think Eckler's the one I sit there.
It's tough to
gross.
even.
It feels
It
gross.
does. It's tough to even verbalize that, but I'm with you.
Yeah. All right. So, Jen, now
Yes.
is the time. And for the last time this season, I'm going to ask you the most important question in the history of podcasting. And that is it a good week to stream tight end?
It's an average week to stream tight end.
All right.
I mean, tight end in general has been up this year. We've been fortunate in the streaming realm. There are plenty of options. I mean, we've been in years past where we're putting up names that we don't even know who they are at the end of the season. So we are fortunate. There are names and there are viable guys that are streamers. I mean, to put your championship on the line, but I think there's at least some names that we like. So I will just get into it here. The first guy on the list, not necessarily in the order. I feel like they're all kind of interchangeable this week. There's no standout, like this is the guy. Kind of like how Carr was your guy, right, for quarterback. We don't really have that. It's kind of a pick your poison here. But first guy I'm going to talk about is Tucker Kraft. Packers, Tucker Kraft. He is on the road in Minnesota. He is 19% rostered. He's had 6 targets in 3 of the last 4 games. He is the tight end 9 in half PPR scoring in that time frame. Not a great matchup, though. The Vikings are second in adjusted fantasy points allowed to the tight end position. However, I think his floor is worth it if you need him. So that's first guy, Tucker Kraft. Second guy on the list, we talked about a little bit earlier in the show, is Chig Okonkwo on the road against Texans. He is 32% rostered. So he has a 15.6% target share since their week 7 bye. And the Texans are 26 in adjusted fantasy points allowed. They're allowing 11.2 half PPR points per game to the tight end. So once again, similar to Kraft, he's got a decent floor, regardless of quarterback. Whether you're going with Tannehill or Levis, he's a guy you can plug in and has a decent floor. Third guy I have here is Juwan Johnson. He is also on the road in Tampa. He is 12% rostered. He has had touchdowns in back-to-back games.
Pretty good.
Tampa Bay is dead last in adjusted fantasy points allowed. They're allowing 13.2 half PPR points to the tight end each week. So he's coming out a little hot at the end. So if you need him, he's an option. I do have a bonus. It's a very risky, like deep league bonus. But I will throw out there Josh Oliver because TJ Hawkinson is out. He has torn several of the CLs.
No,
so he
I'm
is,
so
I know,
sad.
super bummer.
I love that kid.
I know, super bummer. But he could be a factor this week, Josh Oliver. If there's no Addison, that's even another, and Green Bay is 27th against tight ends in adjusted fantasy points allowed. So things are lining up there. I don't know if you want to start Josh Oliver with your fantasy title on the line. However, if you're in like a 14, 16 team league and there's absolutely nothing else out there, he's at least a name you could throw in there and hope he gets in the end zone or something like that.
Josh Oliver, I love the mentioning of Josh Oliver, by the way. Longtime Josh Oliver, he came into the league profiling as like a high-end
Oh, I remember, yeah.
Yeah. He sat on multiple taxi squads for 2 years in dynasty leagues.
You finally got rid of him?
Well, because you could only sit for 2 years in most leagues, you can only sit for 2 years on a taxi squad. And so eventually then you have to either promote them to your roster or dump them.
I don't play Dynasty. So for those of you out who think I don't know what I don't play Dynasty. So it's not that I just don't. Yeah, I don't know those rules. That is interesting though. I thought you could just kind of have players forever, but
so you do, just not on your taxi squad, which doesn't count against your roster. So that's how it works. So
gotcha. Okay.
and all leagues are a little bit different. But I love those. Tucker Kraft also has been good. He's been really good. So fun to watch these rookie tight ends. It's exciting. Joseph David in a PPR flex, Nico Collins or James Conner. I like Conner's floor, but I go with Collins in a better matchup there because Conner against that Philly run defense. That's kind of where I'm at. What do you think, Jen?
God, we've talked a lot about James Conner today.
A lot of James Conner today.
You want to hear something funny about James Conner? Sidebar.
Sure.
A guy on Twitter hit me up with his roster, and he asked me a question about somebody else. I forgot. He said, "Should I start this person or this person?" And I looked at his roster, and I was like, you know what? I know you didn't ask me this specific thing, but I think you should sit Conner for Devin Achane. And I mean, literally sick, thinking all weekend about this random guy that tweeted at me because I watched the games and I saw that Conner went off and that Achane did not. I was so bummed out that I actually tweeted him in the middle of the night last night. I'm so sorry for that advice, blah, blah, blah. Turns out he didn't start either. He ended up picking up Zeke and he won. So
fun.
I was so bent out of shape. So now this and then here we are, James Conner. I'm just like, oh my gosh, James Conner is like in my, I don't know, something about him. But as far as, sorry to take us off on a tangent there, I like Nico.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's where I go to. I'm gonna spare everyone my 5-minute James Conner story, but it's very
because I already gave a bad one.
Yeah,
so
you already gave a great James Conner story, but it's an old lineup thing from years ago that a friend of mine and I still give each other a hard time about. So Inflective 2K, start 2, Ridley, Godwin, McLaurin, Reed, Pittman, or stream a player on waivers. I don't think I'd stream with those options. If Pittman starts, I think Pittman goes in my lineup against the Raiders. Outside of that, I mean, Reed's another one. If he starts, then I'm going to put him in the lineup, but he's very questionable from what I understand. I guess McLaurin against the 49ers is interesting because if you're going to beat the 49ers, you do it through their secondary. That's tough, Inflexive.
Yeah, Terry McLaurin was the headliner of my dead weight report this morning. You just can't trust him.
You can't.
And it's not his fault.
No,
it's just not. It's just that team. Even with Jacoby Brissett, like he was better. He had a banner week last week with him, but against San Francisco, I don't think with everything on the line, I'd want that. Like you said, I think Pittman, if he plays, which I think he should.
Okay.
I mean, it
sounds like
he almost played last week, which was ridiculous. And I'm glad they changed the. I'm glad he came clean that he was having symptoms, and I'm glad they sat him because when they first said he was going to play, I'm like, he got
that
clocked.
hit was
like
so ugly.
There's no way.
Ugly. Oh,
yeah,
man.
and then they're like, oh, he's ready. And then like the day before, he I guess came clean that he was having symptoms, which was great. So hopefully, if he's back, I would go him. And then, like you said, if Reed, yes. If not, I mean, maybe Godwin, but I don't love Ridley or McLaurin there.
Brutal. Lee Ving lost Hawkinson. I'm sorry, Lee. We're sad about that too. Jen covered some good tight end options for you to seek after. Good luck. I hope you nail it. Kells 22 wants to know if we should roll with David Njoku this week. The Jets are kind of average against the tight end, so I think that you can safely start Njoku. He's been getting lots of targets and been really good. So,
I can't imagine. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. I feel better about Njoku than I do about the receivers, is what I was going to say.
Oh, I was just going to say I can't imagine that there's anyone better. Like I wouldn't go with anyone that I just mentioned over Njoku. So if you have him, I think you're starting him.
Makes sense. And Jen, it is time for the other critically important question I have for you each week. And that is it a good week to stream kicker?
It's a decent week. I don't hate it. I'd give it a 7.5, maybe on the scale of whatever.
This time of year, 7.5 straight. It's phenomenal.
Right? I mean, it's not horrible. And we actually had a decent week last year in the kicker realm. I think I had 3 out of 5 were top 12. So we're still banging out some kickers here. First guy on the list, Lucas Haversick at the Giants. Nice. He is 4% rostered. This guy he has double-digit outputs in 3 of the last 4 contests. They are 6.5-point favorites on the road with an implied team total of 24.25. The Rams are, like I said earlier, they're fighting for a playoff berth, so they're gonna do everything they have. So I like Lucas Haversick as I say every week, I always want to put an L in there. I always want to do Havrasilic, and I don't know why. But anyway, so yeah, he's my number one guy. Second guy on the list is Greg Joseph. He's at home against the Packers, and he is 6% rostered. He's home in the Dome, right? I mean, that game is going to be fun, right? It's a divisional game. It's kind of a pick 'em. I mean, at the moment, the Vikings are 1.5-point favorites, and they have a 24-point implied team total. But like we said earlier, the Packers are pretty vulnerable on defense. So I think Minnesota, even though they're missing some weapons, I think they're going to put some points on the board. So Greg Joseph is an option there. And like I said, he's only in 6% of Yahoo leagues right now. So he's widely available. Third guy on the list is Chase McLaughlin. At home against the Saints, he is 2% rostered. He is quietly the kicker 4 in the last 4 weeks, kicker 2 in the last 2 weeks.
Crushing it.
Yeah, the Bucs are 3 field goal favorite, basically 3 points with a 22.50 implied team total. Tampa Bay is a number 4 seed in the NFC, fighting for postseason life. So once again, I think that weather should be good. I like McLaughlin there. And then, of course, I have a bonus.
I love it.
Yeah, it was tough to decide the bonus. There was actually a couple options, but I'm going with our boy. Well, I don't know if he's our boy, but Kaimi Fairbairn.
He can be our boy.
He can be our boy. At home against Tennessee, he's only 3% rostered. He's had a rough 2 weeks, right? Not the best, but this week he gets the Titans, and he's 3.5. They're 3.5-point favorites. The Texans are. And they have a 23.25 implied team total. And he's free on 97% of rosters. So if you're in a deeper league and those other guys aren't available, he's an option.
Excellent. I love it. I love all those kicker options. I'm excited that Greg Joseph is a presence because I feel like he should be, and he just hasn't been most weeks. So I'm excited that he's there.
Yeah, he's usually in our conversation. And I would say out of 17 weeks, I don't know, maybe only a handful he's been in the mix.
Yeah.
But he's in a good spot this week. So
yeah, excited to see him back there. Stephen Smith, start one for their flex. Breece Hall, CEH Flowers, Zamir White, Noah Brown. If Josh Jacobs is out, then that's White for me. But otherwise, I like Flowers. You can talk me into Breece Hall, Jen. I feel like Breece Hall has to be the most frustrating player to have on your fantasy team because he's getting you 40 points or 2, and that's it. That's all he's getting for you. It's got to be driving you crazy.
I haven't paid a ton of attention to Breece Hall because I actually did not draft him anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did play against him this last week. So I was kind of at least, watching him, but I mean, he's a guy, that whole offense is spotty as we know, but like you said, Zamir White in a good spot if Jacobs doesn't play. Flowers had a great game last night. He's in the mix. Noah Brown, if Collins is back, not so great. CEH, I mean, the problem is I mean, he's the only man standing right now, but do we want that? He's it's tough to get on board with that. Like, he's in a good spot and you're like, sweet, he's all they have. It's Andy Reid. But then again, I don't know if you trust that.
Yeah, and Brown I'd like better if we knew CJ Stroud was going to be the guy there, but that's worrisome to me too. All right, Toby wants to, if Isaiah Pacheco misses, they need to know if they need Jalen Warren, Darren Waller, Curtis Samuel, Tyler Algier, or Demarcus Robinson. To me, this is Warren, unless you're in a tight end premium. He said it's a full PPR. Tight end premium, I'd side with Waller, but a PPR, I'd go with Jalen Warren here. What do you think, Jen?
Yes, I could be possibly talked into Algier. He's getting so much work.
He does.
But like I said, Demarcus Robinson, I feel like is a little bit of fool's gold, and Curtis Samuel, I can't get on board with anyone on the Commanders really. So, like you said, if it's not tight end premium, then Warren, but maybe Algier.
Yeah. I like that. Leaving Carr over Tua in a championship game, hold my nose, giving Ravens too much credit. I mean, you could talk me into that. I would still go with Tua, though. We talked about this a little bit earlier. He's just been really good, and that offense should be able to move the ball. So it's okay to be concerned about that. And if you want to go with Carr, I'm not going to beat you up over it because it's a good matchup there, but I'd probably still side with Tua.
This next question is interesting. I can't imagine it's a real question unless it's sarcastic and they don't want to start. I mean, right?
I would think because Chase isn't coming back.
Chase is not coming back. So
yeah.
I think unless you're it has to be Godwin there, unless you're just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So,
I didn't mean to jump the gun, and I know you're the question asker, but I just saw that and I was like,
but Jen, in my opinion, you'd be a much better question asker than me. So
no,
jump in whenever you want.
I'm right here.
But yeah, Notorious TBG wants to know if they should start Jamar Chase or Chris Godwin in a PPR. Obviously Godwin, but unless they know something we don't, I don't believe Jamar Chase is coming back.
Yeah.
Han Lee wants to know Mostert against a super tough defense or bench for Ty Chandler or Eckler. Mostert just gets in the end zone. It's just something he does, and I'd have a hard time sitting Mostert. You could talk me into Ty Chandler here, but I think I'd still go Mostert. That's tough though, Jen.
Mostert just keeps on rolling, man. You think he's hurt. You think he's gonna get less volume with Jeff Wilson there and Devin Achane, and he just keeps on proving everyone wrong and just keeps on rolling. So it is a tough matchup though. Mm-hmm. So like you said, I could possibly go with Chandler there. Eckler, you just can't trust right now, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Mostert, maybe Chandler. I know Mostert had a little bit of something happen last week. I don't know if he's.
Yeah, make sure he's not going into the week questionable.
Right.
Because he definitely left the game for a while. So Toby wants to know Bucks D versus the Saints or the Bears versus the Falcons. Bucks D has really struggled lately, and the Saints offense is not bad. So I would go with the Bears against the Falcons. The Bears are kind of trending in that opposite direction. So that's where I would go. Before I get to defensive streamers, I want to take a minute to talk about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Go to prizepicks.com/accurate. Use code accurate for a first deposit match up to $100. My picks have not been great lately, but we'll see how it goes for week 17. I'm eyeing Geno Smith to get less than 230.5 passing yards against the Steelers. They get a lot of pressure. They rank 4th in AFPA to opposing quarterbacks. Talked about that a little earlier. Not excited about Smith against the Steelers. And then I also like CeeDee Lamb to get more than 90.5 receiving yards against Detroit. The Lions rank dead last in AFPA to receivers. Lamb has eclipsed that number 7 times this season, including against Miami last week. Don't forget to go to prizepicks.com/accurate. Use code accurate for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, back to defensive streaming. I've got a few options here for you, and it's a pretty good week to stream defenses. I like the Rams at the Giants. That's kind of my number one. Rams available. They're only rostered in 20% of Yahoo leagues. Giants rank 30th in AFBA to opposing defense special teams, which is great. Giants also allow the most sacks in the league, and they score the second fewest points in the league this year. We don't know if it's going to be Tyrod Taylor or Tommy DeVito. I don't care. I still like the Rams defense against the Giants. So that's my number one. Close number 2 is Las Vegas at Indianapolis. Indianapolis is 23rd in AFPA to opposing defense special teams. They're 12th in giveaways, 12th in sacks allowed, and the Raiders quietly allow the 8th fewest points per game this year. They're actually pretty good, and they're trending in that positive direction. Antonio Pierce is doing his best to earn a full-time gig as the head coach, and a lot of that is because of how good the defense has been. So that's it. And then you could talk me into some other ones, but where I'm going to go is if you get either side of that Chicago versus Atlanta game, I'm okay. It's in Chicago. The Falcons are tied for 12th in giveaways. Bears are 7th in giveaways. Atlanta scores the 9th fewest points in the league. Bears give up the 8th most sacks. Both these teams struggle offensively. Both these teams are playing well defensively. I'm okay with either one of them. I would probably pick Chicago since they're the home team and because they're trending a little bit better on offense than Atlanta is right now. So Chicago versus Atlanta at home is fine. I'm also okay with the other side of that. So Rams, Raiders, Chicago, Atlanta in that order. And if you, my bonus would be if you're really feeling frisky, Carolina at Jacksonville. I don't hate that, but it's Carolina. And they've been good defensively, but they're not scoring defensively. They're just kind of mucking along, not giving up a lot, and shutting down receivers. That's kind of what Carolina's been doing. So I don't know how excited I'd be to actually do that. But the Rams, they kind of look like they're trying to make a run here late. So go with the Rams. And I think we've hit all the questions.
Nope. I'm not hanging up. I'm not done.
You're not done. You're not
I'm
done.
Just kidding. Well, I don't want this to be the last show.
It's true. This is the last show. I want to say thank you to all the listeners and the people in the chat for hanging with us all season. It's been a lot of fun. We love you very much. I also want to say that our producer Sal is awesome and is phenomenal, and appreciate everything he's done behind the scenes today and all season long. Absolutely love Sal. Thank you to Sal for all he's done for the show and for me. Like he helps me out a tremendous amount. Phenomenal producer, phenomenal person. And Jen, phenomenal person, phenomenal friend, phenomenal co-host. Thank you so much for everything you've done all season. Really appreciate you across the board. Well,
I appreciate
I'll
you
miss you
back.
after today.
I appreciate you back, and Sal as well. Thank you guys for putting up with me all season. I can't believe we're at the end of the line here. That's nuts. Yeah. And then I guess, I mean, there will be some iteration of TMAP later on. We're going to take some time off, and
we'll see what happens.
There'll be some sort of off-season shows at some point, but
for now,
we'll figure that out. For now, we are done. I hope everybody crushes their title games, including you, Brandon, and including me.
Yes, absolutely. Go win that chip. Thank you again. Always a pleasure. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. We were here every Tuesday evening, but like Jen said, we're going to be taking a break for a little while as the off season gets underway. Still check out the 4for4 YouTube channel, discuss with other listeners all the great content that 4for4 puts out. You can follow us on Twitter at Jen Akins NFL and at 2guysbrandon. Thanks so much for checking us out, and have a good day.